He was incredibly involved in the Bolton Fair. He enjoyed vegetable judging. He sang in a music group with Peg at the Catholic Church and was a soccer coach for his girls. Ray and Catherine were married in 2001. Together they share 5 children and 7 grandchildren. And Ray was well known around Bolton, always ready to lend a hand when it was needed. He was genuinely concerned about sustainability, and he was an active member of both the Bolton local and, as I mentioned earlier, the Rotary Club of Neshoba Valley. I'd like to start by introducing the following VIPs, very important people in Ray's life. And as I mentioned, if you could please stand for a moment, starting with Catherine, Ray's wife. Ray's daughters and family, Polly, her husband Matt, and their son Oliver. Erica, her husband Eric, and their children, Jalene's boyfriend Ben, and Erica and Matt's other children, Kayla, Kendall, and Brady. Jen, who is Ray's daughter, and her fiance, Mitko. Peg, Ray's first wife. And Rick, Ray's brother. Catherine's sons and families are Steve and his wife Julie and their children, Tyler and Mason. And Joe, who lives in Argentina, while he's not here in person, he is present via streaming video. So everybody say hi to Joe. I'm pleased to introduce today's speakers, who I asked to keep your talks to no longer than 3 minutes. So the entire program isn't more than 45 minutes. Only 45 minutes. If any other of us among us have stories about Ray that you'd like to share, please see Bob Johnson, who's at the camera over there, who's video recording this celebration, and he'll have you just stand in front of the camera and say a few words about Ray or share a story about him. Let me begin by introducing Laura Kisich, who is another Bolton resident. She knows Ray from his Bolton local days, and she's going to talk about Ray's influence in all that he touched. Laura?
Just so everyone knows, I have special dispensation from Catherine to go a little longer than the Okay. My name is Laura Kischwitz, as Steve said, and it's an honor and a privilege to speak today with all of you as a tribute to Ray. I met Ray on the day that he came to a Bolton local meeting to propose a brilliant concept, the Repair Cafe, where volunteers would fix broken things for free. He asked if we'd support it. Of course, we said yes. We loved the idea. And at that time, there was only one repair cafe in the world, and one in the U.S., and Ray modeled that, like rabbits multiplying that awesome concept here in the U.S. Thanks to Ray's persistence, collaboration, and leadership, they are still continuing today, and I understand that will continue. More on that later. I'm another speaker. But thanks to Ray's love of nature and helping the earth, he went on to become the treasurer of Bolton Local, a group that helps the community become more sustainable and resilient. However, as I've learned these past few months, that knowing Ray from just one of his many incredible accomplishments doesn't really give a sense of who Ray was. When Catherine called to ask me to speak today and say a few words about Ray from a spiritual perspective, she qualified it by saying, even though Ray didn't believe in God and wasn't religious, he was the most religious, non-religious person I know. Ray lived his beliefs and values every day of his life. As some spiritual leaders say, my life is my message. Well, Ray's life was certainly his message. A message of love, kindness, compassion, and doing. As his daughter Erica described her dad, he was one busy man. While Ray's legacy includes a very long list of accomplishments, attending both MIT and Harvard, time in the Peace Corps, teaching middle school, and going on to a career in high tech, starting a national movement for the repair cafes to reduce waste, helping Catherine launch a nonprofit to help seniors age in place, working with Bolton Local, and keeping up with his many hobbies such as running, gardening, dancing, hiking, fishing, traveling, and experiencing nature, and so many more. Besides doing all of that, Ray's first love was for his family, his children, his grandchildren. His devotion to them was shown in many ways, and his daughter Polly described him as the rock in the family. His wife Catherine met Ray 28 years ago at a dance and shared his love of dancing, swing, Cajun, tango, and more, and attending dance festivals. She told me that Ray never said a bad word about anyone, including his children. And as any parent knows, that alone is a remarkable accomplishment. But that was Ray. His daughter Erica shared that Ray had a way of flipping situations around. When someone was upset about something, he'd shine the light on that other person's perspective and diffuse the situation. Ray was also a wonderful father to Polly, Jen, and Erica, and stepsons Joe and Steve, and his grandchildren were the apples of his eye. Erica shared that Ray was so devoted to helping them when the twins were born, he would show up weekly for a visit to help with, and that went on for years. Now, Ray also had a great sense of humor, and he would let the girls put ponytails in his hair. You might have seen that photo that was up a few minutes ago. And barrettes in his beard. He'd take the kids to the park and play with them on a seesaw. There was a beautiful photograph of what looked like a homemade seesaw. And Ray would enjoy it with them. He would take his 3 daughters camping by himself so they could experience nature. And this continued into their teenage years. Ray was also brave. According to his daughter Jen, Ray could still out-hike all of them well into his 70s and loved doing it, preferably in well-worn clothes. Ray would take them on an annual trip that included kayaking in the moonlight with headlamps. He would prefer back roads to the highway and shared his love of cross-country skiing, skating, and sledding with them. He shared his love of dancing and music with his daughters, and Jen remembers swing dances and camping with Dad in Vermont at a bluegrass festival. For those who knew Ray, we know he was all about being a do-it-yourself type of guy, and passed this trait along to his family, including teaching all of his kids how to put oil in their cars, change a flat tire, and do your own taxes. Ray also encouraged the celebration of family milestones by baking special themed cakes for the honorary birthday person, and loved making his special bread for his grandchildren. He enjoyed cooking salmon with his special mustard glaze, recipe please, and making blueberry pancakes as breakfast for dinner when his turn came around. Ray was a wonderful role model and living life as an example of love and kindness. He treated everyone with dignity and respect, no matter their opinions. He had a quiet confidence and a can-do attitude. If you were a friend of Ray's, you were a friend for life, as his fraternity friends can attest. In fact, Ray was so friendly that he would start talking to literally anyone, giving out his phone number so that his family would sometimes have to gently draw him away if it took too long. Ray's example of living an exemplary life extended to his neighborhood, where he started a community email list predating Nextdoor to help share important information, for example, communicating emergency info, welcoming new people to the neighborhood, and even reporting when the local bear was out rummaging around, making the rounds. He would team up with friends to build porches and replace roofs. Beyond the neighborhood and in the community, Ray is not only the Repair Cafe founder and legend, who also inspired Catherine's grandson Tyler to start a Repair Cafe in Pennsylvania too, but his acts of kindness and work continue with all the seniors who are able to stay in their own homes, as helped by the Neshoba Neighbors program, which Catherine and Ray helped launch. Even his work legacy at Oracle continues in the code, where his comments and notes still amuse fellow colleagues, as shared by Steve DePerera. Ray positively influenced the world and beyond our borders with his work with the Peace Corps in the Philippines and in Guatemala through the Rotary's program. He was so happy to learn Spanish and helped clean up the water, the polluted lakes, and provide stoves. Jen remembers riding in the back of a truck with him there and chatting with the locals. For someone who gave so much of his life to improving the lives of others, the last few years for Ray and his family were most challenging. It is believed in some spiritual circles that those who give so much of themselves while on planet Earth need to learn to receive before going on to the next great beyond. A few weeks before Ray's transition, his daughter Erica was sitting with him when a minister from hospice came for a visit. When the minister asked Ray what his spiritual beliefs were, he perked right up, as he had been sleeping, and stated quite clearly, "I'm not religious. I believe in good people." Ray lived his life being not only a good person, but a great person. One of the greatest I know, in fact. As a child, I was so inspired by the work of Mother Teresa and her impact on the world that I wanted to emulate her. Now, after hearing from Ray's family and friends and learning more about his life, I want to be like Ray Pfau. In closing, and in the days ahead, may we strive for Ray's universal kindness and spend time with our family, friends, and honor Ray by working towards improving our communities and the world beyond.
Thank you, Laura, for those kind and wonderful memories of Ray. Our next speaker, who's going to speak in celebration of Ray, is his brother Rick. Rick is Ray's older brother from Albany, and they grew up together in Centerport, Long Island. Rick.
Thank you. I thought I might describe Ray before 1970, because I think I'm the only one in the room who knew him. You all knew him as a man. And let you listen and see if, as Wordsworth wrote, the child is father of the man. So to start, growing up, Ray was the good son. Not surprising to hear all the things we just did about his later life. He was a good student, he was a good athlete, he was a good citizen. He had a steady and reliable character. And in that sense, it's no surprise he was the rock of his family. Like our father, he shared, or I suppose a better way to say that, he shared three traits with our father. First, he was a tinkerer. By the age of 12, he had built his own ham radio set. He used to go off in his room, shut the door, and talk with people all over the world, and then look for those little postcards that some of you may remember. He was also a problem solver, especially when it came to mathematical problems. And finally, third characteristic, he was a person who thought in spatial and mechanical terms as a very young child. And so it is no surprise when you take those together that he would do something like a repair cafe later in life. Ray addition, shifting gears a little bit, had great compassion, as was just described, especially for perhaps this wonderful slide here of Ray holding a kitten. I remember that, Ray, when we were children. Obviously, that was taken much later, but nonetheless. And also for people. He was reserved of speech, as those of you who know him know, thoughtful, and had great depth, as also you would know, even as a young man. He was a model son for our parents, but he could surprise. One story I remember my parents telling me, though his fraternity brothers are unsure of the memory, which is probably a sign of how old we all are, is this. My parents went to Parents' Weekend at MIT one year, probably his sophomore year. They walked into the Chi Phi fraternity house to meet him, and there in the hallway was a motorcycle. In the story, it's a great big Harley hog, though if they remember it, they think maybe it was a little motor scooter. And they said to Ray, who would by then come down to meet them, well, that's odd. What's a motorcycle doing in the foyer of a fraternity house? Whose is it? And Ray very quietly said, mine. Second, unfathomable depth. When Ray was in the Philippines, he sent home in a little box a wooden sculpture. And my parents opened it, and this story I know to be true because I was there. My parents opened it, and it turned out to be a hand. Sculpted wooden hand. I don't know if that's still in the, probably not, because the next bit is a little inappropriate for under 17. The hand was in a fist, but one of the fingers, and I will leave all of your adults to know which one, was raised prominently. So my wife and I went to call. My parents said, we've got this odd gift from Ray in the Philippines. So let's open it and bring it out, show it. So they brought it out and they showed us. And they said, we don't know what it means. My parents had a very naive childhood. They said, we don't know what it means. And so we explained. And my father and mother said, oh no, Ray wouldn't have intended that. So what I will leave you with is this. Ray had great depth, and it was often not possible to know what was really going on below the surface. Thank you.
I just asked his brother whether Ray ever lost his temper with him, and he said, no, never. So.
The reverse, however.
Oh, the reverse, however.
The older brother.
Our next presenter is Julie Bernotis, Catherine's daughter-in-law. Julie?
Hello, I'm Julie. So summing up a life in words is a difficult task, but an extraordinary life is nearly impossible. It was a pleasure and a privilege to have Ray in my family for the last 22 years. Ray was one of those people that we consider the universe's greatest assets. And those in his orbit were truly blessed. He was soft-spoken, humble, level-headed, intelligent, curious, caring, and always pursuing ways to make life better on big and little scales. He was a true fixer of everything from small electronics, grandkids' boo-boos, and family dilemmas. No problem was too big for his can-do spirit and compassion for others. For a man of slight stature, he was still head above the crowd and will be missed by everyone. So in honor of Ray, plant a tree, save an item from the landfill, have a beer and a card night, explore, and just enjoy life to the fullest.
Thank you, Julie. Next to share memories about Ray's life, we get to the right page here, Sally Walsh from Maine. She's a friend of Ray's since MIT days. She was a nursing student at Massachusetts General Hospital Both of them, along with Chi Phi Ray's fraternity, enjoyed many parties and friendships that lasted over the years. Sally Walsh.
I think that was a preview, so I don't go over my 3 minutes. I met Ray over 50 years ago. So this story goes back a long time. It may take a little longer than 3 minutes, but I'll try. Some of the people who were here, who were in the story, are all here today. I won't name them, but if they want to own up to the... Okay, so here's the story, and I need to set the stage. I left a small town in Maine to go to Mass General Hospital School of Nursing, and when we were not buried in the academics or learning our nursing skills, we were encouraged to have a social life, which was to attend the college and fraternity parties that were held nearby. Since Mass General was all female and MIT all male, and the MIT frat houses were close to our freshman dorm, on the same side of the Charles River, it was a natural fit. Many friendships and marriages occurred from these mingling events. After graduation from NGH, I ended what I call the roommate shuffle. I chose to stay in Boston since NGH recruited their nursing staff by subsidizing and furnishing luxury apartments in Charles River Park. 5 of my classmates chose to go to Philadelphia and to work and to further their education. There was a duo and a group of 3. One of the girls, women in the group of 3, had dated several guys in the Chi Phi fraternity and knew one of the fraternity brothers who also had traveled to Philadelphia, so the NGH-MIT connection was maintained. The duo was the first to return to Boston, one to marry and one to join me, since my roommate had also moved on. After a couple more years, the threesome finished their time, and one of them returned to Boston since the love of her life was a harder one. She camped herself in our apartment while she looked for her own lodging, very slowly. Eventually, she became just the 3rd roommate who was sleeping on the couch yet using our apartment as her natural home where she could entertain. That included inviting people to play bridge. One of the first people to come was the Philadelphia Chi Phi guy, who also had returned to Boston, and he brought 2 of his fraternity brothers to be the foursome to play bridge. One of them was Ray, and that became our friendship. My next shuffle was moving out of Charles River Park when I wanted to own a car. So although the rent was subsidized, the parking was not. So the first move for me and my then only roommate was to Alston, which became Party Central. Some of the guys had also moved and were then house sharing with a fellow named Bill Ricker. Those were the years of the Boston Bruins successfully pursuing the Stanley Cup. So on one of our scheduled party nights, the guys chose to stand in line for the tickets and arrived very late, but with tickets, so they were very happy. Since the Chi Phi guys were not there, I met the fellow whose house they were now sharing, and eventually joined that household to complete the 3 couples in residence, one of whom was Ray and Peg. The time there is imprinted on my memory of fun times, work commutes, and visions of men surrounding cars, in parks, in pieces, all over the driveway. There were cars on blocks, jacked up, Chi Phi men under hoods, under chassis, gleefully driving off to find another park. Those of us who didn't understand the frenzy in the yard kept asking each other, what are they doing? So eventually, I do remember a phrase about Corvair engines in Volkswagen campers. So eventually our lease ran out, and the owner wanted his house back. Somehow we found a house in Sudbury where 2 of us couples, including Ray and Peg, we could move into once the cars and their parts could be dealt with. So the move occurred with the usual stress that comes with packing and relocating. The landlord had extended our need to be out date a couple times. Finally, the bringing of police was mentioned if the house was vacated and the yard cleared of cars and parts. So Peg and I busied ourselves at the new place. The guys were frantically trying to put those pieces of cars back together. On the very last day, when all the guys zoomed over to the house to do the final cleanup, I thought I would do a special surprise celebratory meal when they were done, and I drove to Maine to buy lobsters. I remember not getting back until 6 o'clock, and I was really worried that it was too late to get the meal done, since Ray had estimated they would be back around 4. Well, they were not there at 4. They were not there at 6. They were not there at 8. So We finally cooked the lobsters and put them in the refrigerator to be consumed whenever there would be an opportunity. And I was asleep when the guys returned. Needless to say, I was disappointed and a bit ticked off since I had busted my tail to go get the lobsters and spent a lot of money trying to do something. But things calmed down and we were enjoying settling into our new home, except for an annoying odor in the house whose source we could not find. Although it seemed to come from the kitchen, Ray determined that it came from the dark and sketchy basement. So no way was I or any of the others run down to check it out. So Ray grabs his trusty flashlight and put on his I can fix it cap and went down into the dungeon. Shortly afterwards he yelled up, I found it! And came upstairs grinning and carrying the largest, deadest lobster I had ever seen. I had placed the bag of lobsters down there to keep cool before I cooked them since the bag didn't fit in the refrigerator. And obviously one decided to make a run for it, but one was mad and walk. So Ray to me will always be a constant friend in my memories, and one I will think of and laugh with whenever I head down to the basement, one which is well lighted and ventilated.
Thank you, Sally, for those wonderful memories about Ray. Next up to celebrate Ray's life, Tom Scott, a friend of Ray's. They graduated together from MIT, class of 1966. While at MIT, they took part in rowing and the fraternity. Tom and many other people have kept strong friendships with Ray that have lasted a lifetime.
Thank you. Yeah, I knew Ray from 1962, basically. So I think Joe and myself, and if there are any other Chi-Phis here in our class, we knew him back when he was burgeoning. We were roommates. He and I shared a triple with a senior, and in those days you were packed in. It was a big building we were in, but not a lot of room in individual rooms, and we had what's called a double desk, which is like a desk with two sides. So you sit on this side, and then the other person sits on this side, and if you're lucky, maybe there's a poster or something in between. Ray and I spent a year face-to-face doing our homework, and it was a really good thing because he gave me a tremendous amount of help. Physics, which was his major, he was great at, and math, which I was okay at, but he was able to steer me. So we shared that time. I remember almost like yesterday working on those, so what they call problem sets at MIT. The other thing that we shared during that time, starting out, was the MIT crew. And in those days, the boathouse along the Charles was way down Memorial Drive, if you can picture. So walking to and from, particularly from the boathouse, we would have to walk all the way along Lem Drive to the big bridge, the Massachusetts Avenue Bridge that goes over, and then another 5 or 6 blocks to get to the fraternity house. And you can learn a lot about somebody when you take long walks with them every evening on the way to dinner. One of the things that I really remember about Ray was his oddball sense of humor. And one of the things that he kind of excelled at was he would make up these fake Latin names for plants and animals. So he'd go, oh, watch out, don't step on the Nerflidius giganti. Ray was our coxswain. He was, some of us in the crew were tall, Ray was not. The coxswain is kind of like the team captain for the 8-man crew plus the one who was the coxswain. He steers, he charts the strategy for the race. He also has 2 handles on the side that steer with a little bit. You couldn't steer much, but you could steer a little. And with those handles, you could whack on the side of the boat to set the pace. This is long before we had electronic speakers in the boat. So He would whack on the side of the boat to set the pace for us, and when we needed to go faster, he could pick that up. He was a terrific planner and a strategist. He won a lot of races. I was usually in the second boat, and he would get crawled over from the first boat to cox the second boat. The custom was when you won a race, you got to take the shirts off the backs of your competitors if you just won. And Ray won a lot of shirts. He had a huge collection. In those days, MIT competed very strongly with the Ivy League, and so he had shirts from Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Navy. It goes on and on. Cornell, Dartmouth. He had a huge drawer of shirts. We were all very jealous of him. The other thing was, when you won, you grabbed the coxswain and you threw him in the water. Ray got thrown in a lot. He was always very cheerful about it, and he knew it was coming, so he remembered to take off his watch. Let's see. Ray and I both went in the Peace Corps after graduation. Ray went to the Philippines, and he mastered the Filipino language of Tagalog, which is a little bit of a challenge. It has Roman roots, but he managed it very well, and he taught, if I understood correctly, he taught science and English to underprivileged kids. And that, when he came back, I think that may have sent him off to Harvard, and he developed a love of teaching, and that kind of teaching obviously extended to the repair depot. He was a perfectionist in terms of what would I call it? In terms of organizing. In our later years, if you went to college, you know that the reunion years, or every 5 years, is a big deal. And we would have what we call reunion rows, where we try and get a few of the guys together that we had rowed with, and then row a race during the reunion against the other schools, the other 5-year schools. And Ray organized that every year from about 1961, I think, which was our 45th. And we did very well. I hope in the slides there may be a picture of Ray holding a silver trophy. That was from our 45th year when we won, beat everybody else. On our 50th, Ray and I worked together to try and organize it. And Ray said, look, we're going to pull out all the stops. We're not likely to find this many alumni anymore after your 50th reunion. And so he pounded the phones, and we called everybody that had ever even thought about rowing at MIT. And we managed to fill 4 boats, which was some sort of a record. Unfortunately, the sad thing was we only had maybe 7 or 8 experienced rowers who would, so we had to sprinkle those around the boat, and Ray said, look, you know, at least we're not going to have unfortunate incidents. And we didn't do all that well that year, but Ray was the leader, and as you can see in some of the photos of the reunion rows, he was always there. His experience with rowing and his experience as basically, he was not a health nut, but he loved to exercise. And even though in the crew, you know, you think about the crew guys, big meaty guys pulling really hard. Ray always exercised with the crews. He never let up. He could have stood aside, oh, okay, I'll see you guys after physical training or whatever we called it in those days. And I think that love brought him back to rowing in our later years. Both of us got back into rowing in the 2020s-ish, more or less, 2000s-ish, more or less. And he got very good at it. I understand he rowed with a group, and I hope if any of you are here, come and talk to me afterwards. I think he rowed on the Merrimack River, and I remember him telling me about at one point they actually rowed in the head of the Charles, which was a big deal for the rowing club. And so we had talked time and time again about trying to get together and row together abreast down where I live on Cape Cod. for up in the Merrimack. Sadly, we never made it, but next time I go out to row, I'll be thinking of Ray.
Thank you, Tom Scott. I'm glad that Bob Johnson is video recording this today. We should make a docudrama about Ray's life. And we've only heard a little more than half of it so far. Our next person to celebrate Ray's life, Sharon Chappella. Sharon is from Bolton. She's known Ray from her involvement in Bolton Local. That's a sustainability organization based in Bolton. For many years, Ray and Catherine shared a fish CSA with Sharon and Sharon's late husband, Adam. Sharon Chappella.
I have notes because I was told I had 3 minutes, and you give a college professor 3 minutes, you know she has to have it written down. So, here we go. I first met Ray, I think, when I walked into a Bolton Local meeting for the first time and declared, these are my people. And he was one of 2 men in the group. And as I would come to recognize him, he had volunteered to take on the task of treasurer, which was back when Bolton Local actually had money. Ray's interests and concerns, as you've heard, are widespread, and he tapped his myriad skills whenever they were needed. And I think you've been hearing all about that already. But there may be one that you don't know about and that others might not mention, and that was he was a master chef. Ray and Catherine and Adam and I both got our fresh fish from Cape Ann Fresh Catch. It's delivered right here to Bolton for those of you who are here. It is caught the day before. And they send you a message, ours are delivered on Fridays, saying, you're getting this kind of fish, it came from this boat with this captain, and here's a recipe. Do this, it is so worth it. All right. So Ray and Catherine and Adam and I both got our fresh fish from Cape Ann, and then after Adam died, Ray and Catherine invited me to join them, and we alternated kitchens. So we were cooking together. That's when I saw Ray's detailed notes on each of his fish recipes. What herbs, what spices, what precise measurements. In his teeny, little handwriting. He had taken notes on every single recipe that he had used. Cape Ann had sent us and gave us one, their suggested recipe. Ray never, I think, ever just did that. And so we had different notes, and he had different notes for different times. Then Catherine told me Ray did the bulk of the cooking for them, which I think my husband had 2 recipes. He knew how to do. He did them very well, every now and then. And a phenomenal, we won't go to that one. So just as he added up his myriad skills for helping the Nicheways and the community garden for Boston folks to have access to fresh vegetables and other events that you've been hearing about around our area, he made home-cooked meals a gift. And you've heard of this, the cakes. Ask the girls about the cakes.
Thank you, Sharon Chappella. To celebrate Ray's life, up next, Bob Johnson is from Bolton, and like Ray, is also a member of the Rotary Club of Neshoba Valley. Bob has also been a fixer in the Bolton Repair Cafe, which Ray started in 2013. Bob is also managing the video technology for today's celebration of Ray's life. And as I mentioned earlier, after the formal presentations, feel free to go up to Bob and say a few words, if you'd like, about Ray. Bob Johnson.
My connection with Ray has been with the Repair Cafe, and while I'm good at taking things apart and putting them together, Ray had skill that I have kind of avoided and I'm not good at, and that is management. He was the one who put together the Repair Cafe, and as a matter of fact, he was involved in the very early stages of this kind of activity, so much so that he's been copied by many repair cafes around New England. And as a matter of fact, even as far as Europe, it's amazing all the interaction he's taken part. He became a kind of a go-to resource for this. But he was the one that was able to put together all the stuff that needs to happen as something like this goes on. In other words, arranging a time, a location, putting together the staff and the contacts and mailing lists, keeping track of records and all this kind of stuff, arranging for food and so on. This kind of management was really a big impact on the Repair Cafe. For those who don't know, it was, matter of fact, it was actually held here in this building several times and over at Frank Sawyer School. The idea is the public can bring in products that are not working, and someone, volunteers in the community have come to this place and try to offer advice and attempt to repair these old products. And the idea is to keep them out of the recycle or waste stream. And as a result, there was a lot of products that went in here and back out. And as a matter of fact, it's also useful to those who bring in parts that couldn't be repaired. They're all of a sudden thankful that someone has said, this thing is kind of beyond useful life, and the advice comes from someone who knows what they're talking about. And they feel good about, replacing something once they know that it's been properly judged. So anyway, now the Repair Cafe is not finished. It's regenerating. Matter of fact, there was one recently in Maine, and we've got one done by, again, in this September, right here in Bolton. And matter of fact, the reason I'm involved was because of Rotary Club. Ray needed some support from other organizations, and the Rotary Club can take this function, make it a project, and cover it with the connection with a Rotary Club organization that provides insurance and some of the other protections that something like this needs to include in order to function. So you can all look forward to taking your stuff to the next Repair Cafe this September, and you'll be happy to notice each one that comes out somewhere else in Massachusetts that was probably originated with the stuff that Ray did. So.
Next to celebrate Ray's life, Judy Keith, a dancing partner of Ray's from Gloucester, which, like Worcester, where I lived for many years, is just as difficult for non-Bay Staters to pronounce. Judy Keith.
Hi. First, I want to ask you all, what is family? I've learned over the years is that family is not just the people that you're connected to by blood, but the people that you're connected to by love, trust, mutual support. And so, in that vein, I want to introduce myself as Ray's sister, Judy, dear friend of 34 years. I first met Ray at a dance also, and I was swing dancing, and our friend Barbara over there saw us dancing and assumed that we were lifelong friends. So she invited him to my birthday party the next day, as she would, and Ray, being Ray, accepted. I have really, now that I've been reflecting more and more on our time together, I have no doubt that this was no accident. This was really meant to be. We met again at the party. Ray was looking for a place to live. I was looking for a housemate. But he was gifted to me and my daughters at the most difficult time of our lives, when my former husband and my daughter's father was sick and dying. So there was Ray, our chosen family, no stranger because to children or youth, because he already had 3 beautiful daughters of his own. But he took us on and supported us in every way. You know how you have those brief memories of things? And one is, I remember I got off the phone during this difficult time and I was crying. And Ray was talking to somebody. He looked at me and he just said, without hesitation, I have to go. So that he could give me his full attention. That was Ray. And funnier is some of the other things we know about Ray. I don't have time for all of them. But I remember, again, it's a little eclipse or picture of him walking up the driveway with an old piece of pipe. It used to be his job to do the dump runs, but he would often come back with more stuff than he brought. So this particular day, I was curious, and I'm like, why do you have an old pipe? And she's like, well, I mean, to give him credit, it was cut across the top, we'll give him that. He said, well, I might need it to make bread someday. And I also remember the day he sat grimly at the kitchen table because he had just taken his newly found girlfriend out on a hike. And he had this look on his face like, oh no, I've ruined it now. I got her so lost. She's never going to want to see me again. But you did, didn't you, Kathy? And one of the most special days of my life was when Ray called me and asked him to be, for him, the best woman. Kathy already had her best person. We had 2 best people. So me, since things are kind of always all about me, I think I actually said out loud, unfortunately, oh, thank goodness, because I just lost all this weight and I look good. But I'm kind of hoping that I just said that because I was so stunned. And I was really so incredibly honored to be his best person. I remember mostly Ray for his kindness, and you've heard so much about this and everything that he would do for other people. But it was never done like, oh, look what I'm doing. It was always done quietly. There was no fanfare. For Ray, it was like, oh, this is just what you do. So I'd like to know what you all think the best way to celebrate Ray is. And since I don't have time to hear from you all, I'll tell you what I think. I think we should all look around every day, starting today, see what the needs of people are, help them out quietly, and do the things that Ray would do if he were here. And let us now acknowledge that we are going to carry on this legacy of Ray's. And I want you all to say, We've got this, Ray.
We've got this, Ray.
Once more, louder.
We've got this, Ray.
Good job, thank you.
Thank you, Judy. As I noted earlier, I'm Steve D'Agostino. I was a fellow member of the Rotary Club of Neshoba Valley with Ray for many years. I'm deeply saddened by Ray's passing, but also in broad awe of his wonderful skills, experience, passions, and sense of humor. He was a longtime member and leader of the Rotary Club of Neshoba Valley, and as people have mentioned before, a founder and leader of the Bolton Repair Cafe. I hope Ray's loving and devoted wife, Catherine, and their family find peace soon. I'm also quite glad the Neshoba Rotary Club has voted to bring back the Bolton Repair Cafe. The members of the Neshoba Valley Club, if you could let everybody know who you are. Raise your hands. Thank you. As I mentioned, during the 2020-21 Rotary year, District 7910, which is the district that represents more than 50 clubs in Worcester County and Middlesex Metro West area up to the Boston area. That's the Rotary 7910 to the district. It's in 2020-21 named Ray one of its 5 unsung heroes. I agree wholeheartedly with Catherine, who says, of that, Ray is smiling wherever he is. Catherine and both her and Ray's families, thank you for joining with us today for this celebration of Ray's life. They also welcome you to stay for pizza and whatever else is there. Help yourself, and if you'd like to share your story about Ray, Bob Johnson, as I mentioned earlier, our videographer, is there to video record you as you tell your story about Ray. Catherine, final words from you.
Amazing to have so many people from so many walks of his life in one room and hearing the stories of his life, and that's how he was. Everybody says the same thing about Ray. Oh, Ray was wonderful. We love Ray. And it's all true. It's all true. He was a wonderful person. And thank you all the speakers and all your stories. And this special room. And this room is really special because this is where his first repair cafe was. And he had other repair cafes in this room too, and then it got too big, so he moved to the school. But it's a great room to remember Ray in. And there are some pictures of him in this room with the repair cafe group. And personally, I'm just amazed at so many people hearing so many wonderful stories. It's so touching to me and his family, his daughters and grandchildren. And it's wonderful to be in one place to celebrate him. He had a wonderful life, and I'm happy I could share it with him. And Ray loved chocolate cake. For those of you who know Ray. And we have a really big chocolate cake we need help with. So please have some chocolate cake in honor of Ray. And thank you all.
And finally, in celebration of Ray's life, we've all heard the chants, hip hip hooray. Let's hear hip hip hooray. Hip hip hooray. Hip hip hooray. Hip hip hooray. Thank you. like to share your stories, Bob Johnson's over there with his camera, and please feel free to join him to share your tale as well, Brad.
Where do I stand? Right here. I'm Rob Gogan. I met Ray at a repair cafe because I was interested in running a repair cafe where I worked at Harvard University. So Ray was very generous with his time, and he came to our Fix-It clinics. He came to at least 5. We had them in the Brighton Public Library, the Alston Public Library, the Harvard Cabot Science Library, and every single time he wore his orange Mr. Fix-It cap. So I didn't recognize him from looking at some of the photos without the cap, but then there was some with his cap that, oh yeah, that's him. I remember one particular weekday event we had at Harvard University when Ray was really happy and excited because not only was he going to coach at the Fix-It clinic, he was going to see his daughter. And he met his daughter at the Fix-It clinic, and he came and he introduced her to all the other coaches. He was so proud of her. Ray's passing leaves a big hole in the Massachusetts recycling world, as his upcoming repair events calendar was valuable across the state of Massachusetts. All of the repair cafes, not only the ones he had started, but the Fix-It clinics in Cambridge and Boston and Harvard, and maker events, lamp rewiring workshops, they were all advertised there on the Neshoba Rotary website. So this spring, Mass Recycle has applied for a grant to restore that calendar. And in my mind, it will always be Ray's List. But we're hoping to get it going again and sustain it now that Ray's not here to do it. So thank you, Bob and the Neshoba Rotary, for picking up on his idea and keeping the torch lit and passing the torch. And delighted to know there's going to be another repair cafe. We started our Fix-It clinics in Acton, where I live. We're having one on May 18th. And I know there are so many repair cafes and Fix-It clinics that are only happening because of Ray. So his legacy lives on.
And he was also involved in the right to repair activities.
Yes,
at the state.
I saw him at the State House. Yep. I went to testify and he was there, orange cap. Right. Manufacturers do not have the right to forbid the owner from repairing their own device that they paid for and they own. So he was active in that mission, as was Peter Mui, founder of Fix-It Clinics. So, a lot of work to do, but he got us started.
Well, there's money on the other side, you know. The people who sell products have an incentive to, and the people who have service facilities tend to work, you know, have the money to fight against the right to repair activities. But it's amazing we've been able to make progress in spite of that.